All right, Coach, one last time. Is it okay if we record this interview?
Sure. Yep.
Liz, John?
Yep.
All right, awesome. So one more time, guys, this is Alex Peters from County Sports Zone. Today we are joined with Coach Avan Smith, and we have one quick little sponsorship that we need to read before we get started. What's your warrior? Become it in the Army. Whether you want to cure diseases or develop technology the world doesn't know exists, the Army is where all that can happen. Find out more by contacting your local Army recruiter and follow them on social media at U.S. Army Baltimore. Ask yourself, what's your warrior? And go to goarmy.com/Baltimore to find out. Once again, we welcome on Coach Avan Smith. Coach, how you doing today?
Go Army.
Oh, there we go. Perfect sponsorship for this interview.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. It's been a long 17 weeks, I think it's been so far.
When you put it that way, it sounds even longer, to be honest.
Who's counting?
All of us are. So we normally like to start off with the coach kind of just telling us a little bit about themselves and where they coach, where they teach if you're a teacher, stuff like that.
Sure. So I've been coaching at St. Charles High School, the varsity tennis for this would have actually been my 6th year, I can't remember. It's been a long journey, but yeah, I coach at St. Charles High School varsity tennis, and I love doing it. It's my first coaching job, and it actually is a reminder of how we should approach life as adults, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what kids teach us, they have a way of teaching us of how to be humble and how to go back to our roots and remember what it was like once upon a time. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's the fulfilling part about coaching, is that it's a way of humble. That's pretty much it. I don't work in the school system at all. I work for a defense contractor at the Pentagon. So.
Oh, okay. Now, just for everybody watching, where is St. Charles High School? What county?
Waldorf, Maryland.
Okay. Perfect. So like I said before we started the interview, we normally start off with a couple questions about the pandemic that's going on. So with that being said, can you kind of just run us through what your thoughts are on the pandemic as a whole? And if you've been able to stay connected with your players, and if so, have you been able to keep them motivated?
So my thoughts on the pandemic, I don't know where to start, but I think we're in a unique time in history, right, where we can choose how we want to live through this. You know, some of us we've lost friends, we've lost family, and my heart goes out to everyone who's been personally affected that way. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing that can be said to kind of comfort that, but I think aside from that, and with all due respect to that, I think it's more of an opportunity for the rest of us to kind of put things into perspective, right? Like for me, I travel into Crystal City every day.
Sorry, that's my dog. I'm so sorry.
So so for me, I travel into DC every day to go to work, and it's probably 34 miles, and it takes, depending on the time of the day that I leave, an hour and a half to get there. And doing that 2 ways, you spend half your day essentially in traffic. Mm-hmm. And then, you go to work for 8 hours, and out of that 8-hour day, you might work 4 hours because of all the extracurricular stuff that happens. So for me, it's actually been an improvement to my quality of life. My commute to work now is 10 feet. For me to go and get some exercise, I'm structured every day where I go out and I take a walk or a bike ride. Mm-hmm. So it's actually improved my quality of life. It's allowed me to be able to do things that I ordinarily wouldn't be able to do. And for some strange reason, I'm actually working longer hours, but I'm happier. So in terms of the pandemic, I guess the other part to that as well is, things like Zoom and Skype and all this other stuff. It's also given us the ability to re-energize our relationships that we wouldn't ordinarily be able to keep, right?
Mhm.
Because most of us, we find ourselves being able to have more time on our hands, whether you're a teacher, a lawyer, a doctor, or whatever. With most people working from home and not being able to go anywhere, you kind of twiddle your thumbs and you just got to get creative with what to do next. So when I was in high school, it was all about having a phone in your room. And nowadays, it's all about being able to Skype or Zoom somebody, and have that personal connection. So I think that's been a benefit, all things considered, of the pandemic. What was the other question?
So have you been in touch with any of your players? We know, this would have been your 5th season coaching tennis. Obviously that season got canceled, unfortunately. So have you been able to keep in touch with your players? And if so, how have you been able to keep them motivated?
Yeah, so I've been in touch with some current players and some former players, and we've been motivating each other, right, to try and just think outside the box, and to just send friendly text messages or IMs or emails, and just say, hey, how you doing? What's the weather like 20 miles away on that side of town?
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing anything really unique or that calls for doing something just extracurricular. It's just we're keeping it basic.
Mm-hmm.
We're staying in touch. We're asking each other how we're doing. And if they're asking for workout advice, I give them a couple of tips here and there on what they can do at home.
Mm-hmm.
Get a couple bottles of bleach and walk the stairs and things of that nature. Sit on the wall. You can do all kinds of things. So yeah, it's all things considered. It hasn't been bad.
Yeah, and I think it's something important that you said. We often forget that even at the high school level and even younger, these student athletes, they're young, impressionable teenagers. So even just checking in, how are you doing? How's it going? Stuck at home with mom, dad, whatever extended family might be there. It can't be easy for a kid who's used to being in school for 8 hours a day. So. So now this is the hardest question I ask. I want to preface it by saying that, and it's not to put you on the spot or get anybody in trouble. It's more of, we just want to see maybe somebody has a thought that maybe the higher ups, maybe the superintendent or the MPSSA is not thinking about. But if we put you in charge of handling coming back to school or coming back to sports, what are some of the things that you would try and push to make happen?
Wow. That's
And
not a loaded question.
and no, exactly. And it's not to get anybody in trouble. It's just, we found by doing this, we've seen a lot of different answers. The last time we asked, it was the first time a coach had mentioned, consistent testing for any athlete that's playing. So it's one of those things where, we don't want to get you in trouble. We're just kind of looking for our other ideas.
Oh no, I'll have fun with it. I think I can have fun with it. So actually flip the seasons, right? If take spring sports, play them in the fall, because they're mostly non-contact sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with the exception of like lacrosse, but you could pretty much get away with playing softball and baseball. Definitely tennis. Keep golf in the fall. That'd be a good thing to keep in the fall, and allow cross country and maybe some track events, right? You could probably get away with doing a whole track schedule, and it not be a medical burden. I'm not an expert, but it seems like you could figure out a way, maybe run kids every other lane, run multiple heats, so flip the seasons and kind of let the spring go in the fall, especially we're old one, so if we could get our season back, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm. No, I see. That's what I mean. That's an idea that we haven't heard before, and I actually like that a lot. Obviously, logistically, we're talking, baseball, softball. The playoffs would be a little bit later, a little bit colder. But I can tell you, when I was in high school, it would have been awesome to be playing playoff baseball when the major leagues are playing playoff baseball. So I actually really like that idea. I like that a lot.
Well, I do my best to be non-controversial.
Yeah, and I don't think that hurts anything because the thought is it's a better thought than moving sports up to the fall and like leaving other sports in the fall, because then you got guys, guys or girls who are playing multiple sports having to choose one or the other. But I agree with you that I don't see an issue with moving high school football to the spring.
And so the other thing too there is, right, if you're only a football player
Hmm.
or if you're only a soccer player, you've got the entire year to condition and and get your body well
Hmm.
and in peak condition, right? Um, and if you are a multi-sport athlete, you still get the benefit of playing your spring sport.
Hmm.
So just flipping the two around, doesn't hurt anybody.
No, I
And
like that a lot.
to me, it seems like you had that answer pretty quickly. Have you discussed that with other people or within the other coaches? Have you
No, I
ever?
just want to play tennis.
Okay, fair enough.
Uh, I think that leads into my next question. So you said that this is your first coaching job ever. So can you kind of walk
Mhm.
us through how you got involved?
Uh, so I actually wanted something to do with my time.
Hmm.
And I've always been good about giving back in some way, shape, or form. I just didn't know how to do that, right? So, I was just sitting down and watching TV, and some tennis came on, and I'd be like, it'd be great to get out there and coach a little bit. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's been some years since I've been on the court, but I can still play, and I've got a lot of knowledge that I can share. And so I logged on to the county website, and I saw that they had an availability at St. Charles, and I applied, and the rest is golden.
I like that. I think it's important, and like giving back to your community is something that I can kind of tell, and again leads into our next question. But it's something that it's ingrained in people, as they grow up. So I have a feeling that that's probably something that you talk to your players about, as they mature and as they grow and become, active adults in society. That it's important to give back and know where they came from.
Absolutely.
So I guess that leads right into my next question. Like I said, what type of coach are you? So, what are some of your philosophies? What are some things that you preach to your players?
So, just like with most high school athletes, not many of them have ambition to go on pro.
Hmm.
And tennis is one of those sports where it's hard. It's an individual sport, and it takes a lot of technical proficiency to be able to sustain such a high level performance. Um, the older you get and the deeper you go into your career.
Hmm.
So knowing that most of my players will never even think about going pro, my approach to coaching is all about life lessons and trying to help them take the sport and use it as a way to learn how to deal with adversity. And ooh, what was that?
Sorry about that.
Oh, um, so it's a way of getting them to uh, take the sport and use it as a tool to navigate through the tough times in life, the good times in life. Because not everybody's a graceful winner, right? But
Hmm.
we all remember that time where we were a knucklehead and we were showboating a little bit, and mom and dad or coach had to sit you down and kind of read you the riot act. So it's a way of humbling us, and it's a way of being graceful through all types of situations. So that's what I try to use tennis for.
Hmm.
And philosophy, it's just when you think you can't do it, and you might not be able to do it, um, you still got to give it a shot, right? Because you will never know what your capability is. And sometimes we just surprise ourselves just by giving it a shot. So I'm not much of a philosopher, but it's all about putting one foot in front of the other and having fun with it.
Hmm. Absolutely.
What have you learned while becoming or as a coach that you've taken with you either in your job or everyday daily life?
Stress management. uh, and being able to be self-aware. Because everything that you do as a coach, it's monitored. And it doesn't matter if you're driving up and down the road, um, how you choose to speak to your players, and how you interact with other coaches, especially when there's conflict, right? Um, and for me, it's important. It's the most important lesson that I've learned yet, because I expect a certain mentality and attitude of my players, and I expect them to have grace in all situations. And I'm not that person, right? I'm I'm pretty dogged when it comes to standing up for my players and standing up for what's right. And so sometimes my players see a side of me that I'm not going to say isn't appropriate, but should have been handled in a different way. Um, and so sometimes on the ride home, I'll think about it, my interactions with other people, whether it be other coaches or parents or whatever. And, I always ask myself, how do my players perceive this to be? Or how do they perceive my actions? So that's pretty much it.
That's
Coach,
important for them to see. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I always time it wrong. Coach, what advice would you give to somebody that is looking to get into coaching but isn't sure where to start or if they're going to be good enough to do it?
So at this level, I wouldn't worry about being good enough. I'd more worry about being resourceful, because chances are, if you want to coach, then you have a knowledge and a skill set that you can take and implement it into a program. So I wouldn't worry about being good enough. If they're not sure if they want to do it or not, volunteer. Go to the school or contact an athletic director and say, hey, I'm a field hockey coach, or I have all this experience in soccer. I don't want to necessarily be a coach per se, but is it okay if I volunteer to help out with your team as an assistant? And so it's a good non-committal way to come into an organization and get your feet wet.
I think that's some pretty good advice there.
So, Coach, you are the first tennis coach that we've had on, which is exciting. I want to try and get every sport possible interviewing the coaches. So, with that being said, can you kind of walk us through some of your favorite drills or things to do at practice?
Conditioning. It's a long season. It's a sport that has bursts. You're stand around for a minute, and then the next thing you know, you're off 100 miles an hour. So there's incremental bursts in the sport. So in the first 30 days of the season, it's all about running, conditioning, and being able to get the player to a place to where they can sustain a 3-set match. Mm-hmm. And then getting them to be mentally tough and maintain their technical proficiency as the season gets longer, but not only maintain that proficiency, but to get incrementally better by the time the tournament season comes around, and they're still feeling relatively fresh. In terms of drills, it's pretty much challenge drills, right? So we'll play king of the court, and we'll pair up in doubles, and it's whoever stays on the court the longest wins, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Kind of build that esprit de corps, get some trash talking started. And get those inter-team rivalries going on. That tends to take it. It's me stepping back and letting the team manage itself at that point, right? Mm-hmm. Because we'll get to practice, and the conversation starts off, "Hey, coach, I got to finish my match from yesterday because I'm not letting that guy or that gal beat me." And then it gets even better when I take my female players and put them up against my male players and they're beating my guys. You know, my females are beating my guys. So that becomes an extra treat for me because, one, I get to show these guys, hey, you're going to respect these women because if you don't, they're going to put you in your place. And they're going to laugh at you while they do it, by the way. So, you know, it's all about esprit de corps and building the team up organically.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think with any sport, I tend to find that the more competition that you can breed within practice only makes players better. So, you know, that makes, you know, when you're competing, whether it's King of the Hill in tennis, and, you know, it's competition between you versus that other person against you, and you're also working on conditioning, and you're not thinking about its practice. All you want to do is play tennis. All you want to do is defeat that person across from you.
Yes, absolutely.
John, Liz, do you guys have anything?
Good.
Good? John, you good? All right, Coach, this is my favorite question, all right? And like I said, we haven't had a tennis coach on yet, so I'm really interested to see what your answer is. So I'm going to make you a mad scientist, all right? I'm putting you in a lab. You're Dr. Frankenstein, okay? You get the ability to create your ideal type of tennis player, and this can be, you know, physical characteristics. It can be mental attributes. You know, it can be anything you want it to be. What does your ideal type of player look like?
A scholar first,
Mm-hmm.
an athlete second, someone who's not afraid of the challenge, and someone who is forward thinking and can critically and be a good critical thinker.
Mm-hmm.
If you have those 5 elements, the rest take care of itself. Oh, and be able to listen, because you could have those characteristics and not listen very well, and then it becomes a boxing match between coach and player. But typically, if you have those 5 attributes, you're going to do well as a tennis player.
I like that. Now, I have a side question for you, because I've always wondered this. I'm not a huge tennis player. My sister's she loves playing tennis. I'm more of a ping pong guy myself, but that's neither here nor there. Would you rather have a player who has a phenomenal serve, or a player who can basically return anything that's hit towards them?
Wow.
And I know that that's kind of complete opposite things, but I was just curious.
So it's neither of those that win the point,
Mm-hmm.
right? I would say someone who can control the court, that can control the point,
Mm-hmm.
and that can move their opponent to their will.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from that, I think I'd rather have someone who could serve very well, because chances are they're never going to drop a game when they're serving.
Yeah.
So if they win all their serves in a set, and they break once, and they break serve once, they win the set.
Okay. So. All right. I only have one more question for you, Coach. But before I do, Liz, John, you guys have anything?
No.
You guys good? Coach, I have a tendency to dictate the interview and not let my interns speak. So I try and make myself – I have little notes written down to make sure I don't talk too fast for them. So,
hey, it happens.
And so my last question for you, and you kind of touched on this at the beginning, but we want to know how you've used quarantine to improve yourself. And like I said, you touched on it a little bit, but if you could expand a little bit.
Let's see. So I'll give you a nugget here. I'm not supposed to talk about this, but I'll give you a scoop.
Okay.
So it's actually helped me to become a parent. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I were going through the adoption process. And so being able to work from home and just be at home 24/7. You know, most people, it drives crazy. Well, it does drive me crazy sometimes. I'm not gonna lie, but it's improved my life, because we've gone through this adoption process, and we've been certified, and we've been matched with our daughter, and we've been able to go through this process uninterrupted. And it's still while I'm working 9, 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day. And so I haven't missed a beat at work, haven't missed a beat at home. It's actually allowed my wife and I to have better communication and a healthier relationship as a result. But sometimes she wants to kill me, and I can't be good every day, I guess. So, it's improved my quality of life tremendously.
Well, that's awesome. Coach, congratulations. That's a huge step, and we know that that process is not easy. So
No.
congratulations. And it's not gonna sound great, but for the circumstances, it seems like the quarantine was at a perfect point for your life. And that's something that we have to, we take checks and balances. And like we said at the beginning, we don't want to discount everything, all the bad that's happened as a result, but it puts us in perspective for life as a whole.
Right. Absolutely. I totally agree.
So I don't have any more questions. John, Liz, you guys good? Yep. Coach, thank you so much. Do you have anything for us?
No, man. Go Spartans.
All right. Well, we'll see. Hopefully, maybe they flip the spring and the fall, and I'll do everything in my power to make sure you get credit for that.
That would completely rock my socks. So if you could make that happen, I'll answer my text messages after every match religiously.
Oh, I appreciate that. All right, Coach, thank you so much. Take care. Go spend more time with your family before we're out of quarantine.
All righty. Thanks. You guys take care.